I saw no 0.0 USFL, not because I'm opposed to it. I think it's fine. I actually feel badly for football players. I have seen this many times, like firsthand, where a guy comes in, a reputable NFL player, maybe he's been out of the league for like half a season, but he still wants to play. Nobody will sign him. Comes in with a little duffel bag, gets like 15 minutes to run around in shorts in front of a coaching staff that is losing anyway. So who knows what their opinion is worth? And then they tell the guy, hey, thanks very much for coming. Here's a plane ticket home. See you next time. And so it's very borderline, guys that make it in the NFL and guys that don't. And as a professor was pointing out on Friday, and he's probably right about this, he was talking about every offensive lineman that has pro capabilities is already in the NFL. Otherwise, you're just taking fat guys out of a Wawa, and saying, hey, Joe, put that sandwich down. I got a contract for you. I'm going to give you 2 dimes to play for the USFL team today.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest and the traveling man himself, Mr. Mike Lubitz. And we thought we'd do something different today and wake up early in the morning and do a show. Good to see you, Lubie. You look good. You look refreshed. How are you, my friend? Did you get that tan in Greece, or were you out yesterday just getting some extra sun as you tried to come back and get back on normal Eastern Standard Time after gallivanting all around Europe for the last week or so? How are you, my friend?
I am well, sir. It was a great trip. I got all the sun from there, even though it's not as sunny there as you'd hope. It's not as warm there as we had hoped. We had a great time in Athens, Santorini, and Mykonos. Anyone who has a chance to go to Greece, I say go. The food's spectacular. The people are great. Almost everyone speaks English, and the weather's phenomenal. It's a gorgeous country. We had a great time, and I'm super happy to be back. How are you, sir?
Very nice. I know I'm good, and I know you like to channel your inner Anthony Bourdain, much like the Gammon Gourmet Mike Mayo does. So what was the strangest thing that you consumed? Was there anything that you could not identify that you ended up eating while in Greece?
See, I was going to say the Greek food here is very similar to the Greek food there. So It was a lot of gyros, a lot of kebab. They don't do hummus. It's straight up fava beans, which is chickpeas and nothing else, which is not as good as hummus. But it wasn't like shocking. It wasn't like when I went to Thailand and ate like the bug that was freeze dried. Like it was pretty much what you go to a Greek place here. It's what you get there, but a little bit better. But nothing.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'm glad you had a good time, and you and the lonely Shirley are still getting along because that can also be a prohibitive concept that you would travel around. But you seem to do very well together. Whereas on the other hand, my experience has sort of been the exact opposite, unless we're at a gambling destination, and that usually works out well because we separate and do completely different things, and maybe meet when it's time to get on the plane, and then we have an argument. But we'll see how that goes with this pending trip to Italy, which now seems to be very much suspect as far as actually going on the trip and completing it. But anyway, it's good to be here. And wow, do we miss the sensational week? Mike Lubitz, all of that buildup that we had to the NFL draft. Now, we had to move a couple of things around because of your travel schedule. I guess you got back so late on Sunday night that it really would have been a problem for you to get up and whack up a show yesterday. And we would have had John Congemi with us yesterday, but he is going to join us today for Dateline Dolphins, as after all of the conversations that we had about the National Football League draft, maybe it would be a good idea if we actually did some kind of review. And we have a couple of people that will be addressing that today. Now it was somewhat irrelevant in our hometown here of South Florida because the Dolphins did not have a selection until the 102nd pick, which isn't exactly the most romantic position to be in when it comes to alluring a lot of interest from fans. I don't even know who they picked, but apparently they were very satisfied, and the people that do this grading, Pete Prisco, I was just reading his analysis of the draft. Well, most people thought, well, geez, considering what happened there, we gave the Dolphins like a C. Yes. I don't know what that really means because the Dolphins draft essentially all went towards getting Tyreek Hill onto their roster. And if you're thinking that Tyreek Hill is a huge difference maker and probably would be better than having 5 or 6 different prospects I don't know how many draft picks did they trade in all for Tyreek Hill. They ended up with no first-round pick this year, no second-round pick, and they had a third-round pick that was kind of supplemental that they acquired in another deal. So they did enhance their roster with a couple of young players. Obviously, that is a very important component of any kind of success that you would have in the NFL, albeit the Rams went in the exact opposite direction and loaded up with veteran players. But if you're going to have success over the long term, you probably need to dot your roster with any number of players, especially with the salary cap and the money that you're having to dole out for quarterbacks that are out of their rookie contract. And the sensational amount of money that's being paid now to offensive linemen and wide receivers, you are going to have some players that are functional, that are operating under rookie contracts and league minimums and getting the scaled out payouts that you get for getting drafted in the third, fourth, fifth round. And so that has to be, I would think, a component of success. Apparently the Dolphins did all right in that category. I guess the strangest of it was, now were you able to follow this when you were over in Greece?
Yep.
I watched a little of the first round of the draft. Actually, I saw quite a bit of it. And even though the Dolphins had no entry, it's always interesting to me that you could get a panel of experts. In this case, ESPN was my source. I know NFL Network was also carrying the NFL draft. And they had Booker McFarland, who had that failed experiment as a Monday Night Football analyst. Although he's a pleasant enough guy, it's too bad that it didn't work out because he at least has a little bit of personality that he adds into the equation. Louis Riddick is Mr. Scientist when it comes to all this stuff. And is there anybody that knows more about football than Louis Riddick? I don't know.
I know.
What the hell is he saying? I mean, it's like he's got every theory and piece of analysis possible and all of this stuff based on his own experience as a player and an executive. And then when he gets done, I have no idea what the hell the guy just said. Nothing. It sounds good. It's not like he doesn't speak well. He's very eloquent and, he seems to present his position in somewhat of a logical fashion, but he says so many things in the span of 30 seconds that you have no idea what the hell this guy is talking about. And then they had Mike Greenberg, who is a big Jet fan, but has been wrong about virtually every game that he's ever predicted in his lifetime. Seems like, a decent professional television talent. I mean, you can't knock the fact that he's very capable of hosting these sort of things. And he, for the most part, stayed out of rendering opinions. But when they did have all three guys render an opinion, this third pick is coming up. And the first pick, everybody was pretty much convinced they knew who the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to take. And then the Lions were going to grab Hutchinson because it made a lot of sense. Obviously, the guy's from Michigan. He's going to play in Detroit. And, an outstanding player. Most people had him rated as the number one guy throughout all of the draft process leading up to it. And then the last week or two before the draft, all of a sudden the emphasis shifted, and he ended up going number 2. Now, they get to number 3. They're only on the third pick in the draft.
Yes.
And Booger goes out and names about 7 players and says, they could go this way, they could go that way, they might go big, they might go small, whatever the heck he was talking about.
Yep.
And then Riddick gets up there and names off about 10 possible moves that could be made. And sure enough, Greenberg weighs in, says a couple of things, and then they select like a guy that nobody mentioned. Even though,
oh yes, it's Derek Stingley, the guy who was 2 years ago, but the last 2 years he tapped out from COVID and then got hurt. So he was like a guy that was supposed to go mid-late first round.
Right, so they're all stunned there. Oh, what are we going to do? And that's kind of how it went. I mean, throughout most of the first round of the draft, everybody was completely mystified. And the most mysterious pick of them all, of course, was Bill Belichick trading down in the first round and then taking a guy that everybody had projected to be like a mid-fifth round player.
Yep. Cole Strange.
And everybody's like, whoa, well, it's Belichick, which it is Belichick. That's what you have to realize, that this guy has been phenomenal at finding these kind of players. Did we mention Tom Brady is going to be 45 years old, and he's going to be playing this year for Tampa Bay, but still pretty clever pick there by old Bill. And he seems to do pretty well at stocking his roster with the kind of player that fits the scenario. I know you like to consider Julian Edelman to be a system player, but there's nothing wrong with being a system player if you're a really good player in a great system.
Yes.
And you can't help but be a system player if you're going to play for Bill Belichick, because if you're not playing by his system, you're not playing.
Mhm.
So he grabbed a guy that had completely stunned everybody. And, once again, you have to wonder what was Belichick just basically outsmarting everybody? Or is he getting to that sort of point where you're in borderline senility as a coach and an evaluator and you start to outsmart yourself? Oh, I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But that was probably the most mystifying pick of the first round of the NFL draft. And then after that, I really didn't pay too much attention to it. It seemed like everybody was enthralled with what the Baltimore Ravens did. I believe the Ravens selected every player in the fourth round. No other team had a pick in the fourth round. No, that was great, man. They had like 6 fourth-round picks. What the hell were they doing?
I don't know.
But Mel Kiper, who's like a Baltimore guy, I guess he lives in Baltimore or is from Maryland, and he's biased a little bit towards the Ravens in terms of his fan interest. But he said, well, you know what? Without any kind of judging based on the fact that I like the Ravens organization and I root for the team, they aced it. And most people agreed that the Baltimore Ravens seemed to be the sharpest of drafters. And it's sort of been a consideration that people have had in the past. But we'll see what happens. Nobody really knows what's going to go on. The quarterback thing was kind of interesting, as most people thought, too, also, that Malik Willis, the guy from Liberty, was going to be going in the first round somewhere. Yep. And he went, in the third round, and late in the third. A lot of people bypassed him. And Kenny Pickens, it'll be interesting talking to John Kangemi, who, of course, was a Pittsburgh quarterback. And the lone quarterback selected in the first round was Kenny Pickens going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would think that would be a dream situation for anybody that played at the University of Pittsburgh. You don't think that Dan Marino wouldn't have minded being drafted by the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean,
I think he liked living down here a lot better. Overall, I think it worked out for Danny Boy. Don't you think?
I think Marino's very happy. But Pickett, you would think he's already used to that area that those fans really like him. They're big fans of his. And the Steelers are just one of those organizations that always find a way to support their quarterback. So there's a reason why Roethlisberger was there forever and very happy. I don't see why that wouldn't change. I don't know what Pickett is as a quarterback, but for him, he should be geeked. I mean, you're going to an organization that knows how to win and consistently. Look, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. That's impressive. So as a quarterback, that's the kind of thing, the sport you want. Sport Tua didn't get the first time around that he's hopefully getting now.
Well, we'll see about that. I mean, that continues to be the big debate. And now the conversation is strictly, well, if he doesn't do it this year,
he's done now.
It ain't ever going to happen, right? They're saying that about Zach, don't call me Hack Wilson, the Jets. Wow, what happened to the Jets organization? Did they suddenly get a little bit brighter?
The draft was good. The first round was amazing. They did a really good job in the first round.
And they got your guy from Florida State there late after trading up to move into that spot. Yep. And they already had selected, 4th and 7th in the first round of the draft. And most people were impressed with the way they handled that.
Yep, their 4th and 10th picks were really good. And then Jermaine Johnson should have been the top 10, 15 pick. And there was a run on receivers and offensive linemen that pushed him down the board. So he went to a team in the Jets that wanted him badly. They traded back in. I mean, I don't know about the rest of the draft, but their first round was really good. I think they did legit.
Yeah, everybody was impressed with what they did, which is, a considerable turnaround from previous drafts where I was waiting for him with that 4th pick to take a tight end. I really was. Some stiff of a tight end that was never going to amount to a pile of shit. It was going to be the Jets' first-round pick in their first selection, and then maybe they trade out of the first round and end up with nothing. But that would have been typical. Holy Weeb Eubank. That would have been typical of what was happening in the past with that team. So, we'll get into that later on. Brett Tesser, the agent of the Star, is going to join us later on this hour, and then John Kangemi, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo, which would be a nice place to be with this heat wave that we're having coming up this weekend. Just sitting in the pool there, sipping a couple of cocktails. John's going to join us between 8 and 9 o'clock today. Now, many other things happening, including last night. What on earth was Doc Rivers thinking? He's getting kind of a free pass on this, somewhat of a free pass, but up 29 in the clinching game against Toronto. Now, the 76ers had thrown in a couple of stinkers. They go up 3-0 on Toronto. And what was the talk at that point? Was that, no team's ever come back in NBA history from a 3-0 deficit in a playoff series. So what happens? Toronto annihilates the 76ers in their first possible clinching game, goes on the road and just wipes out the 76ers in the next game while they have Embiid and James Harden and Maxey, and they're all healthy. There's no excuse, and you're thinking, what's going on out there? What the hell is going on out there? The old Vince Lombardi thing, right? What the hell is going on out there? Was that Lombardi? No, that was
that was
Hank Stram. Hank Stram, right?
Chiefs coach,
Was that Hank Stram? Yeah. What the hell is going on out there? Yes. And so now there are 4 minutes to go, and Philadelphia is up 29 points in Game 6 against Toronto in Toronto. So you would have to think that there was just an absolute release of all anxiety by the people that were behind the 76ers organization that, okay, we were able to get it together. This wasn't going to happen. Van Vliet was out for Toronto, so there was an added advantage for the 76ers. One of their best players, if not their best player, Fred Van Vliet, who was having a very good season, doing great. So, and they're in pretty good shape there. Philadelphia, up 29, 4 minutes to go. Do you know what the record is of teams up 29 regular season, postseason, with 4 minutes or less to go in an NBA game? Do you have any idea what the one-loss record is?
Like the Heat were up 19 last night with 4 minutes, and even I was still yelling at the TV because the lead dwindled down to 10 and it annoyed me, but I knew they wouldn't lose. Like you can't lose 29 up by, like it's impossible.
No team in history has ever lost a 29-point lead in the final 4 minutes of an NBA game.
Is out there pushing people and hitting threes. Like you're not giving. I mean, that's not possible. I don't give a crap.
So here's the question, and all you can say is, holy Gino Auriemma. What on earth was Doc Rivers thinking with his starters in the ballgame? And especially Joel Embiid, who had been nursing an injury throughout the series. He had a bad thumb. Why is he on the floor with 4 minutes to go? Your team is up 29 points. And I don't usually get too heavily into this. With Auriemma, it applies, right? Because the girl, Beckers, I guess we want to call her. It looks like Bukers to me, but Beckers, Paige Beckers.
Yep.
Best player by far on the UConn team. You saw what she did later in the season when she came back from this knee injury.
Yep.
And she got hurt in a game where with like a minute 30 to go with UConn up 70 over the Little Sisters of the Poor that they were playing. And everybody's like aghast, and this is a Gino Auriemma thing. He doesn't care. He wants to crush the living daylights out of even the most pathetic and, non-competitive opponents. Yep. That's always been his thing. And, he leaves his starters in the ballgame. I don't know. Does he not trust anybody on the bench? You would imagine that if you're sitting the bench for the University of Connecticut women's basketball team and you were recruited there somehow by Gino Auriemma, that you would have some semblance of talent, that you should be able to go out there and at least complete the job when you're on the court in garbage time, no? How much of a jeopardy can it possibly be to the possibility of winning the ball game if you have some subs in there and you're up 70 points?
Honestly.
And you would think, what would be the worst thing that can happen? Rivers pulls Embiid with 4 minutes to go. The lead is 29. It gets down to 8.
Yeah. That's
with 30 seconds, and he throws him back out there. Okay, you might take a look at that. But anyway, so he gets elbowed in the eyeball, and basically, I would think took the 76ers right out of any chance they had of winning the series against the Miami Heat, who didn't look great last night. Trailed by 1 at halftime, and then got it rolling. And you had, Tyler Hero, your man, had a big game finally after very subpar first round of the playoffs. You had Oladipo in there because Lowry was out. And it was funny, too, because people were actually making comparisons and saying, well, Philly's missing Embiid, but we're missing Lowry.
I mean, come on.
How many players would you have to throw into a deal for Joel Embiid if the principal that you were offering up was Kyle Lowry? How many other components would have to be a part of that deal?
Maybe Bam too.
Maybe a piece of the franchise. What are you talking about? Mickey Arison would have had to throw a cruise ship into a deal to give Kyle Lowry up straight up for Joel Embiid, and probably maybe half of his multi-zillion-dollar fortune.
Yeah, exactly.
To get somebody to even talk to him on the phone. Okay, I want to trade Lowry for Embiid. So that was a pretty lame argument that was being posted up there by a lot of people on social media. Well, we don't have Lowry.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have Ronnie Cycli either. But,
exactly. I mean, Lowry's important. Don't get me wrong, and this is what they got him for was this time.
No, he's good. Yeah,
they have Oladipo who can fill in. Like that.
You're taking a potential MVP of the league out of the lineup there, and we know that almost everything that Philadelphia does is contingent on Joel Embiid.
Yes.
You have James Harden, you have this kid Maxey who's blossomed, you have a few other very functional role players, but nonetheless, they are nothing without Joel Embiid in the lineup. So the fact that
this year, like the dude, by all accounts, should have been. I mean, could have and should have been the MVP. Like it's not even Embiid in the past. Where
what did he lead the league in scoring? I think he ended up leading the league in scoring. Shot a phenomenal percentage also. It
was great.
And he was a monster all year. And the fact that he was banged up before, this even happened with the orbital bone fracture that he suffered around the eyeball, all of a sudden he's out there looking like Sugar Ray Leonard, right? With his detached retina and his eyeball is hanging out on his chest. And you're thinking, Doc, how could you possibly have this guy in a game? I mean, that may go down as one of the bonehead moves of all time. And Rivers, who's a nice guy and makes a good account of himself. I mean, is there anybody out there that says, "Oh, I hate Doc Rivers"? He seems like a very reasonable, passionate man. But how on earth could he have this guy in a game at that point when no team has? It's like 2,479-0 teams that are up 29 or more points with 4 minutes to go in a ball game have never lost in NBA history. Not one time. Never.
Not losing that game. I mean, that game's not getting lost. Look, Doc, and we know you said it. He's done it a lot where he's given up series leads. He has. I mean, with the Clippers and with the Celtics. It's something that he's been a part of, and he wanted to make sure they won. Okay, so keep Harden out there. You can't keep Embiid. Embiid's had health issues his whole career.
How do you make sure they won? You could throw anybody out there. You could have taken Iverson out of the crowd at 240 pounds, and he could have played. Exactly. You could have dug up Pearl Washington and sent him out there.
And you're right. They're not talking because I wasn't here.
Dr. J could have played a few minutes and still preserved the 29.
I heard that he wasn't playing. That was what I heard about Embiid. So I was like, I know he had the thumb thing. I'm like, maybe the thumb thing. And I've heard like sort of, because my internet worked overseas. So I would keep track on Twitter of life. And I'm like, okay, I guess he got hurt. And he was in late, but I didn't hear that I didn't know they were up 29.
He should have been fired right there. Doc Rivers. As much as I like Doc Rivers, they should have fired him on the spot. I mean, the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers, who is it? The guy that makes the jerseys or whatever? He made himself a fortune, young kid.
I don't know.
Should have just walked right over to the bench and like he was Jack McKinney in winning time, just fired him right on the spot there. After banging a couple of chicks, which is how they have positioned Jerry Buss in that particular show. I've been watching more of that lately, Lubie.
I haven't watched it since I last told you. All I've seen is really bad things. Like no one's happy at all with it.
No, people are finding it wildly entertaining, though. That's the funny part. I mean, if you just completely warp the concept of everybody's personality and also their persona also, yeah, I mean, it makes for great entertainment. It really does. I mean, Jerry West is still just a outright asshole in this show, and Pat Riley doesn't make a very good account of himself. I mean, seems like a self-driven, stay out of my way. I'm going to steamroll right over you, kind of outrageous prick. No, maybe he had to be that way from a competitive standpoint, but I don't know that he was absolutely, actually backstabbing guys to the level that they make it appear in this show. Do you think? Is that how he made it? Pat Riley buried a few bodies?
Riley's always been very driven, and we've always heard different accounts of Riley. So I'm sure to get to where he's been, he's done some gruff things. But it feels like this show takes the snippets of things we've heard about guys and just blows it up to like an insane proportion to where it's hard to even compare reality and this thing.
See, the guy that's playing Pat Riley, and I don't know the actor's name. I probably should if I was going to make this comment, but
he's really good. Just not Riley.
No, but I mean, he looks more like Joe Pepitone. I mean, He's got this weird nose that makes him look nothing like Pat Riley.
Yes, he looks nothing.
Zero. I mean, the sophisticated, very handsome, dashing Pat Riley, one of the greats of all time, being portrayed as a kind of a weirdo jerk in this show. I do like the fact that Jerry Buss, bangs everything.
Yeah. And that seems like real.
That probably was true. That might have been on the level there.
We always heard of that about Riley. He still wore the velour jumpsuit until like the 2000s, until he passed. He wore the freaking velour tracksuit. So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, that seems like they sort of hit it on the head. The rest of it seems like, okay, whatever.
Pretty far out there. All right. Lakers not in the playoffs, and that is. I'm surprised ESPN hasn't had somebody analyzing how the Lakers would have done had they made the playoffs. Because they cannot, and the Knicks too. I mean, another team. The Knicks not so much. Everybody wants to know what would happen if the Lakers would have been in there. They probably would have beaten all of these teams. Ja versus Steph Curry. Fascinating stuff in game number one.
Yes.
And that was a wild series. Ja Morant, just an incredible series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Especially late in ball games. I mean, you talk about a closer. Wow, this guy was unbelievable. Now, he missed the layup there at the end of the first game against Golden State, and maybe that was poetic and some kind of, justice in that they stole a couple of those games from the Timberwolves in the late going. And the Timberwolves really had themselves. I mean, if they're just banging their heads against the wall all off season instead of playing golf, I don't know if the players care that much. They're getting paid, $50 million a year anyway. But if they do care, wow, they really have to be holding their head in their hands after they dropped a couple of games that they were in a great position to win. And otherwise, they win that series 4-2. And I thought they had a pretty good season. It might be the curse of A-Rod. That's in play there.
There you go. Their owner.
Although A-Rod, how can he be cursed? I mean, this guy's lived a charmed existence, has he not? For a guy that, how could you be any more popular? Did you see Lance Armstrong anywhere? You're not going to find Lance Armstrong chowing down on a Subway sandwich and having Serena stop by and go, "Hey, Serena, would you like to try the tuna?" When have you seen Steph Curry or anybody of even modest stature by comparison hanging out at a Subway and then just hanging out with the guys, right? Hey, I like the way you're putting those peppers on the sandwich.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely crazy. All right. And Golden State, of course, now looms as a factor. In the West, Devin Booker came back for the Phoenix Suns, and he got back into that series, surprisingly, against the New Orleans Pelicans, who were showing some signs of life and looked like they might be a threat to knock off the number one seed. Chris Paul with an amazing game in a clincher, 14 for 14. From the field, and then I don't know how he ended up last night. I think he had 19 points in the ball game, first round or second round game, first game against the Dallas Mavericks. But he started the game 6 for 6, so he had canned 20 straight playoff shots from the field. 20 straight. Can you imagine? I mean, you talk about a guy that knows how to play his game and do it efficiently, and and not have to go out there and do a zillion chucks from 3-point range where he's 1 for 9 and ends up somehow with 27 points and everybody's singing his praises. 20 for 20.
Yes.
20 straight shots from the field in playoff competition. Chris Paul, there's a lot to be said for that. Doncic was insane last night.
Yeah.
I think they used a philosophy which, some people say, hey, we have to shut down Doncic and then let the other guys beat us. They went the opposite way. They said, we're going to let Doncic beat the crap out of us and everybody else is going to get nothing. That's what happened. And it worked last night for the Phoenix Suns. So they took a 1-0 lead also. And it begins tonight. And this is going to be great.
I know.
Almost everybody to a person has the Panthers winning this first round series. Very few people have them winning the Stanley Cup, though.
Yeah. Well, someone at ESPN, supposedly, because I saw a thing on Twitter, ESPN is treating the Panthers like crap and had the Panthers losing the first round.
They have them going on in the first round.
Yes, that I thought was interesting. I'm like, come on, guys. I'm like, look, I get it. You never know in hockey, and the Capitals are a legit team. Didn't they end up with 100 points themselves? But this isn't. I mean, come on. This team's been 1 or 2, and then they finished with the 1 seed in all of hockey, the President's Trophy, which they've never done. They were 1 or 2 all year long. Like, you can't assume that they're going to lose. Like, this team has everything. And Ekblad, by all accounts, should be back, if not by game 1, sometime in the series. He's been practicing with the team. Like, so you're getting one of the top defensive players in all of hockey.
Look, this bet we have with Mayo should be loser leaves town. It really should.
Yeah, we shouldn't lose this bet.
If we lose, I mean, I'll give Mayo credit. He's playing into impossible odds. The Panthers are big favorites. I think you have to lay over 3-1 if you're betting on the Panthers to win the series, and you're getting plus 260. So, in essence, we're robbing Mayo blind when it comes to the odds on this wager. And for the uninitiated, if you're just tuning into the show saying, what the hell is this? Mike Mayo, the gambling gourmet, who joins us every Friday, has stipulated, because the Panthers have not won a playoff series since 1996, that they will not win this one. They will go out in the first round in spite of the fact that they had beyond. I mean, it's not a Cinderella season because it didn't come out of nowhere. They were in there last year, competitive against the Lightning in the first round. Lightning went on to win the Stanley Cup championship after beating the Panthers in 6 games. But it was a hockey bloodbath,
Yes.
that first round series, as many of these series, including the initial round, tend to be. This isn't like, okay, we're going to make Trae Young look like Robbie Benson in one-on-one, like the Heat did. Or we're going to beat the 76ers without Embiid. Doc, what are you thinking? This isn't anything like that.
No, it was a war, that series.
This series against the Capitals weren't horrible. I mean, they're and I was just reading that, and I don't fully understand what the hell. What was the thinking? Did whoever conceived the playoff concept for the NHL get hit in the head with a puck before he sat down to do the arrangements? Because it's possible that the top teams eliminate each other in the first round, which is what happened last year with the Florida Panthers. They ran into the Lightning in the first round.
Aren't the Maple Leafs like top 4 or 5 in all of hockey? And Lightning had to face them in the first round.
Yeah, they got a taste of their own medicine from last year. Yeah, they should be playing like some schlep team that barely qualified, right?
Well, the West sucks, is what it is. It's like the Avalanche and then a bunch of garbage, and then like the next 8 best teams are all in the East.
But the way they did it before, I guess the format changed. I think in 2014, I was reading, and they used to have a real good system where the first seed played the 8th seed, and then they reseeded the brackets. But they wanted to go with some kind of bracketology, so they came up with this cockamamie scheme, which only could happen in hockey without anybody being up in arms about it, because they just say, "Yeah, what the hell? It's hockey. Well, what do you expect?"
Yeah.
But it really is detrimental because a lot of the really good teams get eliminated in the first round, where otherwise they would be having much more of a easy road through round one, and then you would have better teams squaring off in the second round. So. A lot of experts, though, have the Panthers, most of them have the Panthers almost to a person winning this first round series against the Caps. Many of them have them being eliminated in the second round of the postseason. So we'll see what happens. We only have to get through round one, and then we cash in on a dinner at Runway 84, which is a fancy schmancy. Well, it's not really fancy schmancy. It's actually kind of a home-style restaurant, but a great place here, a legendary place here in South Florida. And if they can sweep, I think we get in under the wire there before they shut down for renovations. Been in existence 50 years, this joint, and they're going to fix it up. So Mayo may get off the hook there. But we will not settle for any of his other cheesy alternatives, i.e., speaking of cheese, Skyline Chili. That's not happening, Mike. Sorry. We lose this, though. We should have to leave town, Lubie.
Yes. I totally agree.
A dinner is one thing, but buy the guy a dinner. Here's $500. Go knock yourself out. But we should have to move out of town if the Panthers lose this opening round series. Are you okay with that?
Yes, I agree. Yes, the Panthers should win this.
Bag the show? Can we do the show from Toledo? Where can we go that we can hide from the shame and the indignity of being wrong about this, which I can't imagine what would be the case. But that starts tonight. We have the watch party. Are you in? Going to have a little watch party, people. You want to join us out there Thursday for game number 2. As hopefully up 1-0, the Panthers will put another dagger in the heart of one Mike Mayo and a dent in his wallet. As he's doing all kinds of crazy things, too. He's hedging bets.
Oh, really?
And he's going to wait for the Panthers to win game 1 and then bet the Capitals in the series.
Oh, my God.
I mean, he's going through gambling, complete Meshuggah gambling paranoia. Yeah.
That's great.
This on the threshold of the Kentucky Derby coming up, which can drive you crazy also. Yeah. Trying to figure out what you're going to do with your money. Because if you can put it in the right place, you can definitely make a score. We're going to be talking more about that also. They had the post position draw yesterday for the Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. That's happening at Churchill Downs over the weekend, Friday and Saturday. Lubie's been there. It is a spectacular.
Nothing like it.
And from a degenerate standpoint, there is never. I mean, you can talk about the Powerball and these $300 million jackpots that you can't get your hands on because the chances are so severe against you. If you can come up with some kind of reasonable concept or even just get flat out plain lucky and hit the Derby. It is your best bet ever. I mean, everything pays way more than it would under normal horse racing circumstances. You have a 20-horse field, and I would have to say I've been lucky enough to be the benefactor of several large trifecta payoffs in Kentucky Derby history, enough that it may be the one sporting event, Lubie, that I'm ahead lifetime.
Maybe.
Might be by a small margin. Because, it's not like we're betting a ton of money. I mean, I'll put up a stick with another guy and try to, cast a big net out there and hit something big. But it is your best wagering opportunity. Even if the favorites win, you still end up in really good shape. All right, we're coming back with more in a minute. I'll be down at Hialeah Park for the fights there for the Kentucky Derby. That's going to be a great time. Looking forward to that. And I'm going to catch the Derby down there in the Champion Simulcasting Room. A great place to go. And then catch the boxing card as well. That's happening at Hialeah Park. More details on that to come. Brett Tesser, the agent to the stars, coming up in a moment here on the Defo Show. Now that.
The time.
7:36. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
Simple pleasures of this job. The way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field. The way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less work, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the stars, the one and only Brett Tesser.
Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show here on Ion Channel. Jeff Deforrest and Mike Lubitz, and we welcome to the program. Joins us every Tuesday at this time, and we weren't able to connect with him last week, so we're good to have him on this week, post-draft. The agent of the stars, the great Brett Tesser, joins us here on the show. Brett, how are you, my friend?
Man, Dave, I'm doing great. Glad that I survived last weekend, and just looking forward to a little downtime now.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you think? I mean, there's so many opinions, so much is said and written, and so many conversations about the NFL draft and who did this and who did that and what's going to happen. Let's start here. In comparison to what the prevailing wisdom was going in about what this draft was going to be about, how do you think it equated out? Because it did seem like, at least when it came to the very top of the draft, with a few exceptions, most of the guys that were being bannered about as being the top picks ended up being the top picks.
Yeah, it really, unfortunately, was not a very compelling draft, Beef. I mean, you had, number one, a lot of teams that didn't even have a pick in the first round. So, that certainly played a major part in the viewership numbers being substantially lower than what they had been over the last few years. And then you didn't really have a franchise quarterback, or as was the case in some of those last few drafts, numerous franchise type quarterbacks. So I just think there was very little intrigue, very limited talent as you started going down the line, at least as it relates to marquee value. And so for those reasons, I don't think it was probably one of the better drafts for fans to watch. But like all drafts, You can't judge it based on that night. Judge it 2 years from now, and who knows? Maybe this will wind up being one of the greatest drafts ever.
Oh, yeah, I guess, one of the big surprises, was that Malik Willis, the Liberty quarterback, who a lot of people thought was going to be the first guy selected. Many had him even going in the top 10, teams coveting his services. And this guy dropped to like a midway point in the third round before somebody took a shot on him, and how could people be that far off in an opinion of a guy that obviously what was a high profile player, and it was a guy coming out of all of these workouts and combines and, all of the pre-draft assessments as, somebody that was really, going to be a spectacular pick and maybe the future franchise quarterback for some team that was in desperate need.
Apparently, Dave, it was really probably just a bunch of media hype, just because, as the draft nears, it's clearly one of the more exciting topics for people to discuss and write about and talk about. And so because of that, obviously, there's a need for quarterbacks to sort of be in that mix because, again, it is the penultimate position in our league. And so as you approach the draft, you'll see a lot of people in the media, people, websites, things like that, fans, maybe hyping these guys up a little bit higher than they actually should be as it relates to their potential as NFL prospects. And, that's the thing people need to remember. What makes the draft so unpredictable is there is a big difference between a great college player and a great pro player. And obviously some of the greatest college players in history, not mentioning any names, Tim Tebow, just do not translate to the NFL. And so then there's other guys who maybe nobody heard of. Maybe they came from a smaller program. Maybe their, career just the light just hasn't gone on yet. And all of a sudden everything clicks for them when they reach a certain age. Some of those guys emerge as way better pros than they ever were in college. So that's why just the entire process is such a crapshoot, and why it is so fun to see who pans out and who doesn't pan out. But if you spoke to most people within the league like I did, there was really no quarterbacks in this draft to get excited about. And so nothing surprising as to where somebody may have dropped, or even if they didn't get drafted at all in this one, because as desperately as the media tried to portray some of these guys as, again, would-be franchise solid first-round type guys, aside from, Kenny Pickett, it looks like there really wasn't any others.
From our only NFL Agent to the Stars, Brett Tester. Thank you to Well & Trust attorney Michael D. Wild. Okay, Testman, let me ask you then, where does the media get this information? Because Jermaine Johnson was a guy that out of Florida State I thought would be a first-round pick, and he was. And by the end of it, I'm going top 7. And he finished off being drafted in the mid-20s. The Jets traded back in to get Jermaine Johnson. Like, a lot of people said, oh, that was just media hype. And I didn't understand that. Like, where does the media get this information? They just pull it out of the rear to try and draw attention? Like, I thought when the media comes up with these stories, they're talking to NFL people, and NFL people are giving this information. And you're saying that's sort of not what happened. Like, then where do they get this stuff? They just pull it out of the rear?
So therein lies an even greater problem. They would have been better pulling it out of their rear, because when you talk to NFL executives and front office type people leading up to the draft, as a member of the media, you can never assume you're being fed the truth. Yeah. And the reason why is because there's so much misdirection going on. You will have, front office people telling media people that they absolutely love a guy that they may have no interest in whatsoever. So maybe it forces another team to step up and draft that guy sooner, leaving a player that the team that originally said it may want to drop to them. On the other hand, a player that a team really likes, they're telling media people, yeah, we don't like him. We don't think he's got the tools for the next level. We don't trust his character. You name it, they'll say it in the hopes that maybe that player will drop to them. So, again, in the case of a guy like Kenny Pickett, who we talked about before, that's an example of a guy who pretty much went about where most reasonable people would have expected. Obviously, being a Pitt quarterback and going to the Steelers, that's a great fit. But again, this is far from a perfect prospect. This guy has tiny, tiny hands, which for a quarterback is a legitimate issue potentially, especially as you start to get late in the season in the colder weather. So there's just so much overall misdirection that goes on, and subterfuge, whatever you want to call it, leading up to the draft, that any media members that get any type of information from front offices or coaches or anybody like that leading up to the draft, at this point, they should know that they can't trust anything they're being fed, and it should all be taken with a grain of salt.
I always love anatomy analysis when it comes to the NFL draft, especially, I mean, I'm surprised that they, stopped short. He was holding hands during the process there with an attractive young lady who, I would assume was his girlfriend. She seemed overwhelmingly joyful when he was selected by the Pittsburgh Steelers. But and then they go into this whole thing about how small his hands are, and I'm surprised they stopped there. Right? I thought maybe they were going to throw in a little Donald Trump type of theme there and say, but the other thing is large, and then go to the girlfriend. I mean, how weird is that? The guy obviously. I mean, how different the college football, I guess, is a little bit smaller than the Duke there, or if they're still using that as the pro football. But that seems like an easier ball to throw. So how significant could that be? And, when that became the issue, you even had like Booger McFarland. I thought he was going to unzip his pants at some point. Say there was no equation there. I mean, it was an insane, piece of analysis for a guy that looked like he had distinguished himself pretty well as a collegiate, no?
So basically, yeah, but like you said, the football is a little bit different. And things are happening a lot faster in the NFL. And again, in the NFL later in the year, in many cases. Now, of course, playing for Pitt, he faced some bad weather. But I just pulled it up. Some of the quarterbacks in the league who have smaller hands: Joe Burrow, 9 inches, pretty small. Patrick Mahomes, 9.25 inches. Again, kind of on the smallish side. But Kenny Pickett's 8.5. That's really, really small. Jeez. And so that may be the smallest starting quarterback in the league in terms of hand size. And again, it really does play a role as it relates to ball protection, being able to grip the ball when you have to tuck it and try to reload in sub-zero, freezing, slick, rainy weather late in the season. So, it could certainly be an issue. I can just tell you this. I think a lot of the things that people debate before the draft are nonsense. I think this is actually something that did play a part and should as well.
Brett Testa, the agent of the stars, with us here on the Defo Show. And I watch, with interest pretty much the first round. And then the only pick I find significant after that is Mr. Irrelevant. And you represented a Mr. Irrelevant at one point in time. That distinction actually carries a little bit of weight, does it not?
It does. And personally, it was probably one of the most fun experiences I've had as an agent, to fly out to Newport with my client and his family. And they do an amazing job there. Of course, Mr. Salata, who founded Irrelevant Week, passed a few years ago. He was a real gentleman, and they do an amazing job in terms of the events they have for you. They have a parade, they have a regatta, they have the day at Disney that we went to, and they shut down the rides for you. We literally cut right in front of Nicole Richie to go on the teacup ride with my player and his family. Nice. And everyone's like, looking at us, standing in line like they want to kill us. Like, who the F are these guys? And so, it was definitely a neat experience for sure. And I hope this year's Mr. Irrelevant enjoys it as well.
All right, sounds good. Michael D. Wild, he's certainly not irrelevant. And when it comes to things like wills and trusts and estate planning, that is a very important component to have in place. Michael D. Wild, the best of the best when it comes to those sort of things.
Yeah, just the best estate planning attorney in South Florida. And you can find him at southfloridawills.com. as I have, as Defo has, who thousands of people down here in South Florida who've used his services have. And, it's one of those things that you want to keep procrastinating. It's something you think you'll deal with next week, next month, next year, whenever. But it's something that really hangs over you and your family's head. And once you get it taken care of, it just gives everybody such a peace of mind. Reach out to Michael Wild, SouthFloridaWills.com.
All right, I know you're busy today, Brent. Thanks so much for taking time to be with us. Always a pleasure, my friend, and best of luck with all your clients and the teams that they sign with. And thanks so much for joining us here on the Defo Show today.
Pleasure, guys. Have a great week.
Thanks, man.
All right, thanks a lot. Very excited here, Lubie, about a couple of things. John Kajemi coming up. We moved John from Monday to today due to the fact that travel considerations. What time did you eventually get home, Lubie?
1:32, 2 in the morning.
All right, well, that's not bad. I don't know. I've lined up and played under those circumstances. Well, I mean, I've come in at 1:32 in the morning many nights and said, fuck, got a show to do. No, it's very exciting. Saturday, going to be the doubleheader, one of my favorite doubleheaders of all time. We used to go to the Mandalay Bay there, the MGM Grand for fights. It was Cinco de Mayo. We know that Oscar De La Hoya was always fighting on the Cinco de Mayo cards, and if they didn't have Oscar, they had somebody else for that first Saturday in May, which it often was based around, and that's going to be the running of the Kentucky Derby. So we would watch the Derby and go crazy there in the sports book, and then go straight to the fights, and that's what we're doing.
Yes.
Coming up this Saturday.
Yes.
It's May the 7th at Hialeah Park. Are you in, Lubie? Are you going?
I'm in, of course. Sounds
Okay,
ridiculous.
yeah, because I was thinking about it on my walk of life the other day, and I was thinking, how great was it to get Lubie the first time, or anybody for that matter, especially ringside, at their first ever live boxing match. Now, people have a variety of opinions about blood sports, so to speak, and sports that involve a concept like, hey, the aim of this game is to knock the other guy out, and I understand that. I've been a boxing fan somehow inherently my entire life. I don't ever remember not being a boxing fan, and my earliest instincts were to study the sport. I love the history of it, everything about it. I always did for some reason, and still do. And, I guess, there's nothing more exciting, too. I remember the first time going to a live fight. It was just, wow, what a whole different experience it was than watching fights as much as I've watched them on TV over the years and invested. I mean, think about it. If you could have the money back from anything and you felt it was justified, it would be the money that you would get back from all of those Floyd Mayweather pay-per-view events that you paid for. When he was in there, right? Never mind the horses or sports betting.
I don't care about anything.
Give me my money back from those Floyd Mayweather fights, and I'll be a happy man. I'll go to my grave satisfied that I was not financially screwed at any time in my lifetime.
Exactly.
But this is going to be great. And a sensational lineup of Latin stars, Cuban stars going to be involved here. And that's going to get the fans, and I like it. They go crazy there.
Yep.
It's just a dynamite atmosphere. And I think the weather is predicted to be very this doesn't necessarily guarantee it, because the weathermen often completely dead wrong. But I did see a little graphic because I'm interested, obviously, in hoping things work out well for my friends there, Frankie, and people that are staging the event at Hialeah Park. And it was bright sunshine, not a cloud in the sky the whole day. Okay? So if that's the case, then we're in for a really spectacular evening outside under the stars after the Derby. Hopefully you made a big score. You'll have like 10, 11 dimes in your pocket, and you'll be buying drinks for the house there because they're all going to be reasonably priced. All right, tickets online, HialeahPark.com. You can get tickets for the event at the box office as well. Going to be great. Victor Abreu, that young kid, man, that everybody's talking about. All the gyms. You go around the gyms there, Lubie? Remember you were going down to the Fifth Street gym?
Yep. Guys,
probably heard the buzz about this kid, Victor Abreu. Man, when he gets in the ring, it's going to be something. So, and we've seen these people, Henry Rivalta, Louis de Cubas, and, of course, the great Leon Margulies, develop all kinds of great talent, and not only bring them here to the United States. Yeah. There you go. Roberto Duran.
What do you mean? And the card's going to be like literally the minute the Derby ends, the card starts. Like there's like 30 fights.
I always loved that. That was like a Don King thing. I mean, these guys are taking a page from the great Don King. Because in Vegas, like you'd be at the Mandalay Bay, and the Derby was still 2 hours away, and the fight card was starting at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Vegas time, which I guess is 7 o'clock Eastern or something.
Yeah.
But and there would literally be like 8 people in a giant arena watching a world title fight. Yeah, straw weight or one of those, 108 pounders, but still with like guys that are just knocking each other's brains in and putting on a very exciting fight. Anyway, this is going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Get involved. Come on out. If tickets are still available, I'm assuming they are because you have just a great arrangement for it. I love the way the seats kind of go gradually up there in the stands. However they figure this out, they're just incredible. Leave it to the people at Hialeah Park to do the logistics just right and market the event perfectly and make it just a great, great night for sports fans. Horse racing in the afternoon there, Champion Simulcasting Room, El Boxeo at night, going to be absolutely fantastic. We'll see you at beautiful Hialeah Park on Saturday, May the 7th. All right, so you're in for this watch party Thursday night. I want to invite all the people here.
Sucks. I do my trivia, but I think people should go. If I didn't have my trivia, I would 100% go. Like, I want to be there with Mayo
paycheck
to watch this series. Like, so bad. Either way.
So we're going to be at Shenanigans in Dania.
Nice.
Shenanigans in Dania, and that's right on Federal Highway, just a little south of the airport. Great spot. I mean, I got TVs all over the place, and hopefully, we got a bunch of people to come on out there. And you can just give the business all night long, the old Ben Dry thing, to Mike Mayo. Just give it to him every time the Panthers score. I hope they win this thing like 7-0.
Kick their ass. We're like, ha ha.
And then I want everybody in unison to go, Mayo, Mayo. I'm losing the series and I want to go home. Now, if we lose this thing, we're going to have to leave town, right? We really are. Buying Mayo dinner is one thing, but he would deserve more because it's almost like he's forsaking, and giving us like 2 to 5 odds on a team that's favored in this series because he's not taking the price. He's just made this a straight-up bet. And, in fact, he's in worse shape because if I went to dinner with you, I'd probably be picking up your tab anyway, Lubie, right? So you don't count in this thing. And then, we got to pay for Mayo. Make sure he orders off the left side of the menu. No, where it says entrees, Mike, that's out.
It's just appetizer every TiVo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, you could probably get by there with a few of those appetizers. They're fantastic. But nonetheless, the Panthers cranking up the series. That begins tonight. Thursday's game 2. We're going to have the watch party at Shenanigans in Dania. And we'll be out there yelling and screaming and cheering and chowing down on a few things and having a couple of beers and hopefully watching, I'm hoping on being on the road heading home by the second period. Up 5-0, yeah.
That'd be wonderful. Oh, my God. Please, Panthers, please.
I want to.
Panthers.
Hoobie doobie doo to just put a hat trick in Mayo's face. He's not alone, though, in this contrarian opinion, and history is on the side of Mike Mayo in this one. The Panthers have not won a playoff series since that phenomenal original run there with the third year of the franchise. They're all the way to the Stanley Cup final that year. It was great. Everybody got into it. It was a big unification thing for South Florida, which doesn't unify easily, Lubie. In fact, nobody does anymore, right? See the Supreme Court nonsense?
Oh, that was fun. That was, I don't know what to do with it.
I mean, let's go forward into the past.
Yeah, exactly.
Firesign Theater?
70s was the early.
They came out with that on a comedy album like 60 years ago. Let's move forward into the past. And that's pretty much what we're doing. Although it's not, a very glamorous past that we're trying to attain again. It's all of the negative elements of it.
Exactly.
And that's where we're headed. That's great.
What it is like.
Right?
We're trying.
Did Nancy Pelosi, by the way, make it out of the Ukraine? I mean, she looked like she was struggling to make that meeting with Zelensky. Like, are there bombs going off here? What the hell? My God. All right. What does the world come to? It's Michigan. That's why we like being in the toy department here.
We're here.
Talking sports. All right. One of the greats, one of our favorites, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, and that's in Key Largo. The great John Kajemi, the handsome one himself, is going to connect with us in just a few minutes here on a Defo Show. So we'll get more into a lot of things. I know John is a versatile sports fan. So
Yes. We'll talk a little heat.
probably
We'll talk a little
following
heat.
a little basketball,
That's-
and we'll ask him. I mean, what on earth?
Yes, that's a good question.
This is an easy criticism to pick up, but it's insane when you think about it. The magnitude of this decision to have Joel Embiid in a game when you're up 29 with 4 minutes to go, and there's no chance. You could have had all five guys leave the court. They didn't have time to score 29 points to get back into a tie. The Toronto Raptors in that final Game 6 against the 76ers. And the Sixers had gone into a coma for 2 games, and you thought they might actually become the first team. It looked like there was a chance there. I might have bet on that. A chance that they would become the first team ever, 143-0 in this situation, to lose a series that they were up 3-0 in. It didn't happen, and they annihilated the Raptors in this game. They're up 29, 4 minutes to go. Embiid gets hammered with an elbow in the eyeball, and the next thing you know, you would have to say right then and there that Doc Rivers helped them lose the next series, no?
Yeah. I mean, look, that was a 1-point game at half. And that's without the guy.
Joan Rivers wouldn't have had Embiid in the game if she was coaching a team. Mickey Rivers wouldn't have had it. Johnny Rivers.
And this series would be a lot tighter, and I would have a lot more concerns if Joel Embiid was on the court the first 2 games.
Did you see Adebayo last night? It was like he was playing against his grandson. No, what are you talking about?
First time.
Okay, little Johnny, watch me dunk. Boom. Gee, Grandpa, that's great. It was insane. It was like when you go to the other basket at the other end of the park there after you got knocked out of the big game, and some guy shooting with his son, and you say, "Hey, you want to play some 2-on-2?" You were just in a game with like Dr. J. That was an actual occurrence, right? You're in a game with Dr. J on one side of the court, literally Dr. J. And then you go to the other side of the court, and because you lost it, you would have had to wait like 40 guys to get back out there.
Yep.
I mean, if you lost the first game of the night, which you were going to lose, of course, because Dr. J had a stacked team there, 3-on-3, then you go down the other end of the court, and there's like a guy, that's like 5'6", all squatty, and he's shooting with his son and his daughter, and you challenge them 3-on-3. That's what Doc Rivers did to the Philadelphia 76ers last night. We love you, Doc. I mean, you seem like a really sincerely good guy, no? Doc Rivers?
Seems like a nice person. I question him as a coach. I've done it before. Now I'm really questioning him. I mean, come on.
You literally, I mean, and this is a Gino Auriemma deal where, you've got star play, but he does it to, just so embarrass the opposition. This made no sense. All right, we're coming back. John Kajemi's raring to go. He's in the bullpen here, going to come in, pitch the 6th. How about the Mets with a 5-pitcher no-hitter?
Yeah, I heard about that when I was gone. Yeah, I heard about that when I was gone.
First legitimate no-hitter in Mets history, even though Santana had one, but everybody knows that ball was fair. Yeah, all right, back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show. Now that. The time! I thought Booger was going to unzip his pants. I really did, to demonstrate how one appendage has no association with the other. Trump was in denial on that with the small hands. I'm aware, yeah. It's 8:03.
Oh, my God. Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-8800 9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
Don't gamble in anger.
She hit the daily.
Very calm. Think it through. If you need a little help, don't gamble in anger.
I get a panicked phone call, and he says, "Do you have any extra cash?" I go, "Yeah, I brought money with me to Atlantic City." He goes, "Well, I can't get any more out of the card because the Mustang went wild and emptied the daily allotment of cash."
Double nickels, man. She went for a nickel on her card and a nickel on mine.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
As I recall, we got out with a horse at Churchill Downs. That's how we made our way out of that fiasco there. The double nickels that were extracted from the ATM machine by the Mustang. And I had to run back to cash my tickets because we were leaving the next morning and they were going to close the race book over there at the Borgata. So I made a desperate run back there and we got our $800 and got out of town. We welcome to the show and welcome to the Defo Show. If you're just joining us here and the return of Mike Lubitz, return of the live programs. And there's nothing more live right now than this cat. And that is John Kajemi as we go. We call it Dateline Dolphins, but it's a very expansive conversation. And John, you're looking great as always. Thanks so much for being with us here on the show.
Oh, good to join you guys today. Lubie, how was your trip?
My trip was great, man. Greece is definitely a place that makes you feel like you're in a movie. Like you see these views like Santorini and Mykonos. It's like, okay, it looks like, the screensaver that pops up that you're like, where is that?
Yeah.
Amazing. Like the colors and the water and the mountains. It's just spectacular. So we had a great trip and very happy to be back. How you doing, sir?
Awesome. I'm doing great, man. I heard you guys talking about the Heat. They put a beat down on them last night, huh?
Yeah. Well, what do you think about this? I mean, being a sports person that's been involved in different situations with coaches and everything. And, we've seen it before. I'm not usually one to, go out of my way to blame a guy for, a guy gets hurt in a spot. I remember when Jimmy Johnson had Zach Thomas in a preseason game in Mexico, and he was on special teams, and he injured himself. I don't know if it cost him many regular season games or any for that matter, but everybody was like screaming, how the bleep could you put Zach Thomas in a preseason game on special teams? And Jimmy's explanation was, well, he plays special teams during the regular season. So, we're practicing special teams. He was out there practicing. And, you could look at that and say, all right, that makes some sense. Although, we all know now that the preseason has finally been devalued to the point where people realize that it's not worth, taking any risks during the preseason in any capacity. But Doc Rivers leaves Joel Embiid in this game. That they're up 29. I don't know if you caught this, John. They're up 29 over Toronto. 4 minutes to go. They put a stat up that teams in this situation are like 2,453-0. Never lost. All right. Now, and earlier this year, it's interesting because Gino Auriemma, who's known to just leave his starters in the whole game, with 38 seconds to go, he finally pulls one of his starters, even though they're up 70 over, some prep school that they're playing in preparation for, their regular conference season. And he'll leave these people in the game, and he doesn't care that he bludgeons the other team. And we see stories about high school teams. Oh, wow, can you believe this? It was 144-0. You might have been a part of those games at St. Thomas. Now, were you still in the game?
No, George.
Was George Smith leaving you in there when you were up by 9 touchdowns with 6 minutes to go?
No, when I was younger, I was one of the guys that got to go in and get experience. And then when I got to be a senior, I was one of the guys coming out of the game. Yeah, you're right.
You want your guys playing in garbage time that been on the bench, especially in a series clinching game. You got out of a very tough first round, which became difficult when all of a sudden your team absolutely collapsed for 2 ball games. Embiid was nursing an injury also. So So how is this guy not under? I guess he got some criticism, but he answered it like with a blasé answer. Oh yeah, well, what the hell? They had their guys in. Like, of course they had their guys in. They're down 29 points, but you could have got by with any scrubs. I was saying earlier this morning that they could have pulled Dr. J out there and Iverson from the stands, and they still would have held him off. So, what do you think? Did Doc Rivers deserve a lot more scrutiny for what looks like blowing the second round of the playoffs by not having Embiid available to him for at least a couple of games, maybe more?
Well, yeah, just look at what the start of this series against the Heat is going to look like. It's not going to be a true indication of what the 76ers are as a team. And, you're up by so many points. I think as head coaches, you control your team. No matter what the other team's doing, you can control your roster. You can control your substitutions. You can control tempo and pace of a game, especially when it's out of hand. So the other team doesn't substitute. You can still get your studs kind of out of the game in terms of, not exposing them to any kind of risk going down the stretch because the game's in hand. They're, as you said, it's undefeated. You're not going to come back from that type of deficit. And even if you go on a 10-0 run, you're still down 19.
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to do? At that point, you're
maybe with 2 minutes left. Yeah.
Your starters, right? So, yeah, I think he deserved a much more criticism for leaving one of the most impactful guys for the way your team plays in, exposing him in a game that's over.
Crazy, right? He gets elbowed in the eye, and there goes, you would have to think any chance they had, it was going to be, from my thought, a competitive series anyway, certainly a lot more competitive for Philadelphia if they had their key guy in there. I mean, everything, you can have James Harden. He has up and down games. He's been okay in spots, spectacular at times, but also, his usual disappearing act he's done at times in key ball games for the Sixers down the stretch. And Maxi's come along, but without Embiid, they literally have nothing. And I don't know if that ever happened to you. Like when you played basketball recreationally or wherever. I'm assuming you were pretty good. Were you not a point guard for the St. Thomas Hoops team?
I was for a little while until the baseball coach said that I could play as a sophomore on baseball if I skipped basketball. So I skipped my junior and senior year of basketball. Yeah, but I did play growing up. Yes.
Okay, so were you ever in this spot? Now it happens to be true, even though it seems like something that I would have completely made up. But we used to go to this place in Merrick, Long Island, and the one game, it was sort of like almost new to have like a park that had baskets that weren't sideways and with a ripped chain net and lights and everything. So this became a hot spot for Long Island basketball. And the court would be occupied 3-on-3, one team that would just, they were out there, the first team out. Dr. J, the actual Dr. J, he was 16. He's my age, and he was going to high school on Long Island. Dick McGuire, the former coach of the New York Knicks, who was in his 50s and was the dirtiest player I've ever gone against in any sport. And a kid that Jim Larinaga was the arch rival of in high school, which he had a spectacular New York high school career. Named Eddie Malloy, right? So they would start out, and that was the three, and good teams would come out there and challenge them. So I got into some of these games when I was 16, and you knew you were going to lose. I mean, Dr. J, he wasn't the flamboyant Dr. J then, and he would just stand under the basket and tomahawk dunk when nobody dunked.
Yeah, no one's dunking like this.
McGuire would hit you right in the balls, I mean, with a headbutt as you were inbounding the ball. I mean, and you were, crippled for the rest of the game. And this kid, Eddie Malloy, was just as sharp as anybody at distributing the ball. I mean, it was like having Steve Nash going against you. So you'd lose that game, and you go down to the other end of the court there and challenge a guy like a father. And they weren't even using a basketball. They were using like a beach ball. And he was with his son and daughter that were both like 6 and, maybe 8. And that's what it was like for the Heat last night without Embiid in the game. I mean, they went from that Dr. J game right down to the other end, say, hey, yeah, you want to run some 3-on-3? And Adebayo, I mean, had nothing to go against last night. So, wow, I think Doc Rivers just absolutely cost them
the
series
good for the
with a
Heat.
bozo move in a previous game.
take advantage of the situation that's presented to you, right? If you can get out to a quick 2-0, 3-0 lead in this series and put it away at home when it comes back. I mean, Hero had a great game. Bam had a great game. You know, you feel like you're getting a little bit more healthy in terms of what you can do. So, yeah, I'd take advantage early in this series and make leave no doubt to where this series is headed.
It was great, too. Every expert had the Celtics in like 5 over Milwaukee.
Yes.
And then, I mean, I didn't see this game, but the Bucks just crushed the Celtics without Chris Middleton in game 1. And that comes as a surprise. I don't know if you've been following the Celtics, but man, I mean, they came on so strongly, from the All-Star game on, and we're the best team, far and away in basketball, I think, maybe with the exception of the Phoenix Suns. And but we don't know how good the West is. People are saying they don't have the depth that the East does. But, I mean, it just goes to show you, we've been saying this for a long time, John, if you could book the media's action, you would be a rich man today. But no, that loomed as a very interesting turnaround in terms of swaying public opinion. All right, let's get to the draft and what you thought about that. I mean, there wasn't much to be said for the Dolphins, except they essentially traded their draft to get a dynamic player like Tyreek Hill. And they did some other things in free agency. We've discussed it many times. Seems like solid moves. Did you see anything in their drafting that was an indication that the organization is still going in the right direction and on the right path in terms of philosophy?
Well, the Miami Dolphins, I mean, when you look at it, they had 4 picks. So it wasn't going to be, detrimental to the point of, well, it's a disaster. We didn't find anybody to help the team, or it wasn't going to be on the other side where you go, wow, we found these 4 guys. They're going to turn around the franchise, this year. I think they tried to do that, as you said, in free agency. When you get a dynamic wide receiver in Tyreek Hill, you bolster the offensive line with Armstead on the left side and a guard coming from Dallas. But in the draft, you get an action-packed linebacker with speed that probably can help you situationally once he gets accustomed to the way that the NFL plays. You don't want to be too over-pursued to the point where you run yourself out of plays. And I think Tyndall from Georgia was surrounded by a lot of talent on that defense, one of the best defenses in college football history when you take a look at the numbers. They had 2 defensive tackles go to the same team. They had all their linebackers go. I mean, it's amazing what they were able to assemble on a college football team on that side of the ball. But you get one of those impactful players, and I think that's going to help bolster the roster. You get a tall wide receiver. You lose one in Devontae Parker. He goes to the Patriots. So you get a 6'2", 6'3" wide receiver that maybe if Williams doesn't work out on the outside, you get a young guy out there, but you're primarily going to be playing in the slot with your playmakers and hopefully running the football more effectively. You get an outside pass rushing linebacker from Cal that's a guy like a tweener, long arms, can get around the edge. And then you get a quarterback that you want to, hopefully get you through training camp, expose him to an offense. See if he can be on the practice roster if he's that guy, but he's not going to be asked to play this year or maybe next. So, the draft was the draft for the Dolphins. They had 4 picks. I thought, they were able to get a couple of linebackers, get a wide receiver for depth and move on with the moves they've already made. So I think it was successful before the draft, and it still stays the same way. Their team was made in the off season, not in the draft, but in free agency.
Well, John, and what I've liked so far, and I've been very hard on Chris Grier, I still don't, the verdict to me is out on Chris Grier, but I've liked the way Mike McDaniel sort of brought everyone, I don't know about down, to his level. Like, you're now seeing Chris Grier. We've made fun of Chris Grier. Where's he been? Well, he was in every press conference, every interview with Mike McDaniel, right? They're together in lockstep, which you haven't seen ever for the Dolphins. Like, that's always been their issue is we always joke too many cooks in the kitchen, too many people. There's infighting, this and that. Like, it feels like Mike McDaniel's like, I got you, Chris Grier. Come with me. They're going to like you now. And he's cracking jokes. He's talking about on Twitter. And, well, during the first round, we're just going to watch Tyreek Hill highlights, like little jokes that you would normally not get from Dolphins brass. Very sort of peeling the curtain back about, we know what we did. we're not hiding from it. We're confident about it, and we're ready to have some fun. And to me, their pick sort of felt like that. Like Tyndall is a guy that was really good and could have gone an early second round, where instead of they've overdrafted like with Noah and Austin Jackson, they got guys that were just hanging around, best available guys that will probably play. And he actually fits alongside Jerome Baker, where instead of throwing a guy into a spot that he doesn't fit, they're finding people that fit their system. And they're all fast. Like the receiver's like a 4.37 guy. Like they're all guys that are underdrafted, but Mike McDaniel has done things within the past. And it feels like they're on the same page. Like when they ask McDaniel these questions, like, look, Chris Greer liked him. I liked him. We drafted him. You know, like the way they're talking is something you haven't heard from the Dolphins. I don't know, since Shula. Like I don't remember them being this transparent and this fun. And I'm at least right now, I'm liking it.
Well, you should. And the Dolphins like to throw around words like collaborative and transparency and doing all that stuff. But I don't know if they've ever walked the walk
exactly
in terms of pulling back the curtain. And I think the personality sometimes of a head coach, if it's that obvious to people that he's not going to change, he's going to be this way, whether this is an interview for Sunday Night Football or whether it's an interview, with the local media after making 4 selections in the 2022 draft. He's going to be the same way. And sometimes that rubs off in the front office. It rubs off. Sometimes it rubs off on your football team. And you hope that they take on that personality. I think for all the, good things or bad things you might want to say about Brian Flores, I think some of the good things were that his tough personality in terms of being serious and demanding about the little things rubbed off on the football team. Where did it show up? It showed up in getting rid of the pre-snap penalties. It turned up in discipline. It turned up on about showing up and being accountable, being on time, doing all the little things that got this franchise from a 5-win team to a 9 and 10 win season. Yep. So I don't think those things can be discounted. Now, can this McDaniel personality where it's more lax, it's more laid back, it's more, kind of just letting it flow off the tip of your tongue, whatever comes to, to the front of your brain is going to come out of my lips, whether that rubs off on the team, whether they play to, right on the edge. They're a team that can kind of, lay it out on the line. They're going to be a gambling team. They're going to be a creative team. They're going to be a team that has a little razzle dazzle in their play calling. Or are they going to be hard-nosed and run the football, play action, be kind of, predictable, but so good you can't stop them? Yep. All the stuff is kind of out in front of the Miami Dolphins right now. You don't know what to expect, but you're excited about it because you as the fan, as you are, Lubie, you're kind of receiving all this information going, yeah, I understand. I agree with that. Man, he really told me what he was thinking. Now, whether that's 100% true or not, we'll see how it plays out. But at least you feel like you're involved and you're getting the truth from this organization.
A little frightening that Lubie is so enthusiastic about this whole new approach. And that's strike one, is it not? Right there in the corner. I mean, you're like, hey, you really? You took that pitch? You have to be kidding me. There's no bigger bullshit press conference either than the general manager, both before and after the draft, comes out there to address the media.
You just want to stick
I've been to a few,
right in your thigh,
yeah,
just to keep yourself alive.
Oh yeah, we love this kid out of Purdue, and then it's the last thing on earth they ever intended to do. And then the media overreacts to everything that's said, which is why it was hysterical when I was watching the first round. Now we knew the first 2 picks were going to be what they were, or so it seemed. That sort of became established. And then by number 3, everybody was mystified, which And I was saying they had Booger McFarland out there and Louis Riddick on ESPN. I was watching Mike Greenberg, and each guy named like 7 players for that number 3 pick that would all be a perfect fit. And then they went to Mel, who was on a remote, Kiper, and I tend to respect Mel Kiper. I mean, he invented this whole genre, and I don't think he's full of crap, but he was way off. And you're thinking, so what is the point of all of this conversation? Like nobody has any bleeping idea what the hell they're talking about.
it's like a dartboard. You kind of just throw everything out, and then when they come back to you, well, I said that was the guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, a great pick. Yeah, they never mentioned the guy's name. It was crazy.
I have such a funny story. You guys, because I hit delete on this selection. Do you remember when the Dolphins? Had to be 10 years ago, at least, maybe 8 or 10. They went up to number 3 and they picked the defensive end from Oregon.
Yes,
Jordan.
Deion. You already forgot Deion Jordan.
All right, Deion Jordan. Okay. So we're doing a show. We're doing a draft show from whatever Hard Rock Stadium was called at the time.
Yeah.
And we're going through the picks. And Keith Sims, great Dolphin offensive guard. Keith always liked to be right. Okay.
Very articulate and opinionated also.
Yes. So no one knows that the Dolphins are going to go from wherever we were all the way up to 3. And if we're going to 3, we're getting Lane Johnson. I guess he was the tackle that went to the Eagles the pick after. But we're going to go get this tackle because we need offensive linemen.
Yep.
Somebody must have given the word to Keith at who we selected, who we're going to select. And out of nowhere, he hasn't even mentioned this guy's name in 4 months as we're preparing for the draft. And he goes, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins go up and select, Deion Jordan from Oregon. We're all looking around, and 15 seconds later, they go, the Dolphins have traded up, and he acted like he knew exactly what he was doing. And it reminded me of the guys on ESPN and all the shows on TV, because they just started throwing names up just because they figured, well, he didn't say that guy. I might as well say this guy. And if I'm right, I look smart.
I had inside information once, and it turned out to be accurate on the Dolphins draft pick when they selected Ronnie Brown, number 2, in the 2005, I want to say, NFL draft. And a neighbor of mine was pretty connected in the sports world. He had been a coach with the Oklahoma Outlaws and also had been with the Missouri team as a defensive coordinator on the college ranks. What was it? Woody Woodenhofer? Was that the guy's name? That was his guy. Yeah. And Jim McKinley was my neighbor's name. And he comes running across the street, and usually it was about some score he made at a casino at the track that he was coming to tell me about. But he says, I got one for you, Defo. And he had inside information that the Dolphins had already had some negotiations with Ronnie Brown, the running back out of Auburn. And now almost everybody thought, well, geez, they're going to either take Alex Smith or
Rodgers,
Aaron Rodgers, whoever's available, right? Right? They both got off the bus, 1-2. And I remember going on a show with Jimmy Cephalo, and he said, well, what do you think, Defo? And I said, well, I believe they're going to take Ronnie Brown. And, he wasn't even the best guy at Auburn, and Jimmy's like, yeah, well, what do you know? What are you, some kind of comic? You always got to be funny. I mean, we're trying to do a serious draft show here, and you're making jokes? It was like a scene out of Goodfellas. And sure enough, they take Ronnie Brown. And it was like, wow, that was a mind blower too, because turned out to be a very unfortunate pick. I mean, when you really look at it, that was a transformational franchise, draining and damning pick that they made in that draft. All right, the magic question, though, John Kajemi, is not anything about these players. And now you have to keep in mind, and I have to keep reminding myself that it's a 17-game season now. So over under 8 and a hook. I thought that was a pretty modest number. Over under 8 and a hook, Miami Dolphins in a 17-game season. I might have gone over in a 16-game season. So what do you think? Is this a sucker bet? And the real people who know everything, the line makers and odds makers in Las Vegas, are they onto something that we are unsuspecting of?
No, I think last year I did a show on FOR4 down in Miami before the season. And I think everybody was, 11 wins, 12 wins. And I was going, I don't know.
That was Segredo. That was the old influencer.
I don't know. That's a pretty good number by Vegas, 8 and a hook, because it's right around that number. I could see 7. I can see 9.
Wow.
I don't see double digits.
No.
Oh, really?
John, I thought you were as high on the team as Lubie is. Lubie has them going like 17-0.
I don't see the team beating. I don't see this team beating Buffalo again once, and I don't see this team sweeping the Jets, not with the draft they had. Wow. I really don't.
All right, we'll get into. See, now there's the man, a rational man, right? I mean, he's been on the Dolphins' payroll, and yet he's not afraid to say, "Hey, look, 7 and a hook might be a real proposition here." All right, so 8.5 is a number. I would be inclined to go over. I think they're going to be good. I really do.
I think it's like we've heard in years past. Like they could be better, but they're scared. The AFC's like not
loaded.
Human.
There's
only like 3
just when you thought just when you thought the Jets were going to be a layup, those are 2 wins. New England's kind of down. Yeah, the quarterback played well last year, but he might regress a little bit in year 2, trying to figure out he can do more than he really needs to. I don't know. I mean, unless you can beat Buffalo one time, I think that's the game. You have to sweep the Jets if you're going to get to 9, right? You have to. And you have to probably sweep New England if you're going to get to 9. Take a look at that schedule.
Wow.
I don't know.
Let me call Lipschitz and call off that bet that I just made.
No, but Defo, go with your gut. I'm saying I'm just me.
I've been going with my gut for too long.
Yeah,
you know that.
Go with you.
I just think when you look at teams in the over/under, how do they do in their division?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If the Dolphins were ever going to get to the playoffs, no matter what year it is, the worst they can do is 4-2.
Yeah.
You can't go 500 in your division and get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not with the parity in the National Football League, especially not with the AFC being so strong. If you're going to go out and play the Chargers, if you got Denver now with Russell Wilson, you've got a bunch of teams that are, I can't remember the Dolphins' schedule in terms of, I think they have the North. So you've got, Kenny Pickett, a rookie quarterback with a really good defense in Pittsburgh. You've got Deshaun Watson now in Cleveland. You've got Cincinnati coming off the Super Bowl appearance. And you've got Baltimore that's going to be Baltimore. It's always the Dolphins' nemesis, trying to beat those guys. So I'm just trying to add them up, and I'm not getting to 10. Maybe get to 9, but I don't get to double digits.
All right, we'll have Tony on tomorrow. He'll have him at 12. So, you remember when he did that thing? Speaking of, I guess he was on Channel 4 and Channel 6 because they did like a Mike Kekich, Fritz Peterson thing where they swapped stations. It was like swapping wives with the Yankees many years ago, and he used to get up there as soon as the schedule came out, and we always kind of mocked Tony a little bit, and with all affection, but. We used to have to stand up there, and they would literally say, okay, Putin has used nuclear weapons in the Ukraine, but the Dolphin schedule just came out, so here's Tony Segreto. Like, what? And Tony would have to go, okay, Buffalo, that's a win. Then they lose to New England. So very difficult to do because you don't know, what kind of shape these teams are going to be in by the time you get to the meeting.
When you play them, yeah.
What if Allen's out for Buffalo in both games? I mean, who the hell knows? It's possible that anything can happen. So, but I think the Dolphins, I don't know. I think they're going to be an okay team this year. They can't be much worse than they were last year. And they, started out 1-7 and came back and rallied 1-8 out of 9. So,
yeah, there's only a couple of guarantees when you look at a Dolphin schedule. If you see Buffalo in week 16 or 17 in Buffalo, that's no bueno.
No, forget about that. You may as well be back in Saskatchewan, John.
Yeah, it's brutal. New England's more doable, but the Buffalo games, they just don't play well late in the season.
Sorry, we have to talk about some cornerbacks here, including your man Pickett. So we'll get some thoughts on that from John Kajemi. Jimmy Johnson's big chill, though. Any sign of Tommy Fox? Does he still exist? Where is Tommy Fox?
I thought
the market's been up,
you had
it's been down.
Correspondence, Defo. I thought you were you.
That doesn't mean we've come
bread.
to any conclusive, plans on this whole thing. But we want to get down there. We want to get down there.
I know that Jimmy Johnson's big chill still loves us, and they want us to come down because who wouldn't? We come down and we leave our own footprint. We don't do too much, but we have a good time and we enjoy the food and the scenery down there. It's just a great place to kind of kick back and relax. And I know that they've had a busy season with a lot of folks coming down and enjoying the Upper Keys. And now it should be slowing down for the locals. So it might be a great time to go down and enjoy Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Either it's the sports bar, the tiki bar, or the restaurant. Have a pizza with Dominic, my brother, and Amanda, my sister-in-law, and Larry runs the entire place. And it's just one of the best places to go if you're going to really just kick back and relax in the Upper Keys.
You're not, John Kajemi, inclined to wild extremes when it comes to your behavior because, you drive the hour and a half, one and a hook that it is to get down there. very calmly get out of your car, say hello to the, mom and dad and the whole family. But what's your first thing that you're thinking when you get to the restaurant? What is your go-to item there, John Kajemi? What's your first order up?
I would say any type of pizza that my brother offers up with any type of beverage that he's going to give me. That would be my first go-to, because the pizza there is phenomenal. I just love it. It's awesome.
Does he go Italian fisherman with you all the time, or
not all the time?
He surprises you. I mean, all of a sudden, like Lubie's got a fried egg on his face, and it's not because of something he said on a show. I mean, it was part of a pizza. It was amazing.
Yeah, not all the time, but when it's offered, I never turn it down. That's for sure.
Good stuff. All right, it's mile marker 104. The accommodations are exquisite. You'll have to make arrangements there on a limited basis, because they have 8 units, which are all spectacular, but good enough. Like a couple of families could hang there and all be happy, coexisting in harmonious bliss, which is tough to do even if you're only a couple sometimes. But anyway, it's mile marker 104. It's a mood changer too. I mean, whatever you're feeling. Yeah, you're going to feel that much better about life if you get to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. All right, coming back with more, including small hands. John, how much have you talked about small hands over the last few days? But your man, Kenny Pickett, man, I mean,
he's a pig
does he even have hands? I mean, what is the deal?
He just has nubs.
I don't know. He broke every record that was ever set there, so he must be doing something right.
You guys have had some quarterbacks there.
Yeah. We'll get into specifics here on a few other things and expand our conversation about both the NFL and life in general with John Kajemi coming up on Dateline Dolphins here on the Defo Show in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Small hands. It's 8:35. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
Joins us here on the program, along with John Kajemi, and it's Dateline Dolphins, of course, Leslie Visser, the lovely and talented one.
It was always different. You had to know if it was Emmitt Smith, if you screamed at him, he was going to go into a shell. I wasn't going to get anything out of him for the rest of the day. If it's Charles Haley, he was going to get upset at me and maybe threaten me on my life. And
I mean it.
Yeah, but I mean it. And he could have done it too, I promise. But when he went into my office, he said, "Coach, just get on to me one-on-one. Don't do it in front of the other players." Now, Michael Irvin, I could cuss him like a sailor. And the more I cussed him, the harder he worked.
From South Florida to the entire world, thank you to the iHeartRadio app. Here is Defo, joined by Lubie on the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show with Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz, and John Kajemi, always with us, usually on Mondays from 8 to 9, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. You just heard from Jimmy, and wow, I mean, in terms of psychology, there may have been none better when it came to coaching. And he explained a lot of that when we were down at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill and had him on the show. All right, John, you're familiar with this guy. Obviously, he followed in your footsteps. In a sense, as you were part of that whole great quarterbacking legion of guys that they had there at the University of Pittsburgh. Started with Danny Boy, and then of course you come in there after that. Some big shoes to fill. You did it very well, And now you had Kenny Pickett, who, people thought that he was going to be the second quarterback chosen behind Malik Willis. What were your thoughts first before we get into this whole small hands thing and whether or not Pickett is going to make it? Because he was the only guy selected in the first round, a real oddity among quarterbacks, but with the desperate need that all teams seem to have at almost all times to find a quarterback, with rare exception. A few guys have been in the league for a long, long time, but most teams are looking at the position even still. So what do you think first about Willis just dropping out of sight? We had Brett Tesser on earlier. He said, well, some guys just get hyped up. And while the media is talking about a guy and all of the experts and analysts, the people inside the NFL are saying, hey, no way, Jose, man. This guy's not worth that kind of investment. So Willis falls to the third round, which I thought was a big surprise, no?
Yeah, I thought Willis was going to go somewhere in the first two rounds, depending on which team and need where they were selecting. I thought Pickett would go in the first round. I wasn't surprised that he went to the Steelers. I mean, just take a look at the team and the organization you're going to. First of all, you share the same door when you go in for the last 4, 5, 6 years, however long Kenny Pickett was at Pitt because of COVID and all that stuff. He's probably there a 5-year guy, maybe 6. I can't remember. But
I think Blutarski was the only guy that spent more time in college.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett.
I hope he finished a couple of my classes too while he was there. So, yeah, Kenny Pickett's pro ready. I mean, he was coached by a guy that coached for the Steelers as an offensive coordinator, Mark Whipple. He probably was given the task that was more demanding of not only calling plays, but identifying blocking schemes and identifying personnel on the defensive side of the football, all this stuff happening pre-snap, and probably better prepared on a weekly basis of going in and game planning and doing all the things you need to do, like an NFL quarterback would be doing the last couple of seasons when he started, right? So you take a look at Malik Willis and all the indications that, visibly that you can see, he's got a live arm. He's got one of the strongest arms that you'll need to play the quarterback position going from college to pro. He's very mobile. He's one of the fastest players on the field when he's playing. He's difficult to predict because he's just going to tuck it and take off when other guys might take a sack or throw it away. So it's almost like you're defending, a Michael Vick or a Lamar Jackson or somebody that's kind of, can beat you with his athleticism and his legs, but he also can beat you from the pocket throwing the football. But the only thing you don't have, and depending on what franchise or what team was going to pick him, is that team ready to plug in a guy that's not as efficient so we can game plan and do the things we need to do? Or how much are we going to put on his plate? Because he's never been exposed to that. He's never been, in college at Liberty, he had signs up that one or two words and boom, you were going, right? So maybe you have to either adapt to what you want to do to get a guy that hasn't been coached or even been exposed to that on a daily basis, or you got to kind of bring it back and kind of trim what you want to do to make him play at his best. So I think what I've heard from guys that went through the combine that were meeting with Malik Willis and guys that were meeting with maybe a Sam Howell that went through the process of doing all that stuff, Sam Howell dropped as well, right?
Well, he fell through the roof. I mean,
he fell through the roof. Now, do I think Malik Willis's upside is better than his? Yeah, I think Malik Willis is a hell of a quarterback. I think you're going to be able to, you might be able to do some stuff with him that you can't do with other quarterbacks just because of he brings you the element you can't coach or teach or predict, right? You can predict what the quarterback in New England's going to do, right? The ball's coming out. But he's going to beat you most times because he's going to be able to place the ball where you can't get it. He's going to be able to throw it away and punt instead of throwing the turnover, where Malik might give you the explosive play, but he has to kind of watch and see, why did he just throw that in the stands and punt when he could have maybe tried to fit it in? Well, because we're up by a touchdown or two and you don't need to get them back in the game. So his experiences are going to be learning first. But I think by listening to guys at the combine, they said that what they did in college wasn't close to an NFL type of environment. And if you threw him into that, he would be swimming in terms of trying to catch up where he wouldn't be able to let his athleticism show.
Yeah, I was thinking, who does Liberty play? I mean, what's this guy been up against? Is always
and it's not even the
consideration
opponent, though.
in the
Defo.
draft.
It's not even the opponent. It's what you're exposed to on a daily basis at practice. What's asked of you, right? I think Kenny Pickett was asked to be a pro quarterback 3 years ago, where Malik Willis wanted him to win games at Liberty just to win games so they could get exposure. And whatever we had to do it, whether we ran 12 plays a game, we're going to run those 12 plays, and we're going to depend on Malik's athleticism to carry us through. They throw it 60 yards down the field on a dime, run for 120, where the other way was more game planned, but you got that exposure for not only just one season, but 2 or 3 years. So you're ready to take the next step with verbiage of a play, with the way you're game planning, all this stuff. It's hard. It puts a quarterback in a bad spot if you've never done it, and all of a sudden you come in and you go, here it is. We're expecting you to do it. Go ahead.
I know Lubie's got something for you, but I did want to address this small hands thing. You kind of, stated that, and very, factually so, that this guy set records that even Danny Boy wasn't able to establish. So obviously he can throw the football. The small hands with Pickens, and then I would have done a Mike Tannenbaum if I was talking about Howell, because I was convinced, like I always am, that the highlight film was 100% representative of what this guy's capabilities would be as a pro. So I'm looking at this guy going, my God, top of the second round, I'm trading up to get him. And he fell to the fifth. But what do you make of all of this conversation? We were jokingly implying that Booger McFarland unzipped his fly and said, this equation of appendages is not always the same. So don't worry. His girlfriend, is going to be completely satisfied by this guy. But, Brett Tesser actually had like a measurement, which I don't even know these things existed, right? Where they put the guy's hand flat on a table.
Yeah.
And said, my God, that's small. What do you make of it? I mean, you've thrown, the college ball and the Duke. I don't know. I mean, it seems like the grip is, unless it's Tom Brady messing with the ball, the grip is great on the Duke. And maybe makes up for the fact that it's a little larger than the college football. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it's a little bit different, I think, but it's one of those things where you get used to throwing a football. You get more accustomed to it. The grip, I don't think is that bad, because they kind of dress those footballs and rub them down to the point where it has great tact on them. And then some guys even like it better with a glove. I know Kenny Pickett wears a glove. I think Ben Roethlisberger wore a glove for a lot of years. And some other guys, when it gets colder, they experiment with, at least on their offhand. So when they're taking snaps, it doesn't kind of, slip.
I think he's going to put one of those big foam hands on, with the finger up in the air. Maybe the middle finger, and give it to everybody as he's throwing the touchdown
as he's throwing the ball
for the Steelers. Yeah.
No, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a problem for him. I just think it's one of those things that, it's a measurement. He didn't seem to have a problem throwing in college, and I don't think he'll have a problem throwing in the pros.
John, it's interesting. I just want to jump back to Malik Willis for a second, because the NFL is always a copycat league, right? So you wanted the big strapping dude, and then when you saw Drew Brees have a lot of success, but then there was still a little bit of a gap, and then Russell Wilson came in, the small guy, really didn't play in college systems, so he fell, and then he became a back-to-back Super Bowl attendee and should have won 2 Super Bowls and really had opened eyes where, look, if a guy has a strong arm and he's athletic and he's short, he still can make it in the league. So then you saw a run, right? You saw Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, back-to-back number 1 picks, didn't come from pro-style systems and didn't have the size, but Russell Wilson set the tone. Well, you've now seen those guys show a lot of boom, but also a lot of bust. Both guys have been questioned. Now Mayfield will be on another team. Kyler Murray's in trade talks because he's had talent, still can't win. Do you think the NFL, now we've seen the old strapping dude in Burrow and Allen, the big, strong guy, back to being successful, who have more pro-style things coming out of college? We know the NFL is copycat. Do you think that's having something to do with Malik Willis? Because he compares to those other 2 guys pretty well, and it looked like he should have at least been a first-round pick. To fall to the 3rd round, that's a lot.
Yeah, like I said, I was surprised he wasn't picked in the first 2 rounds at least, because it seemed like his stock, his value was going up the closer we got to the draft. And whether that was smoke, whether that was just guys trying to, bring up his name, knowing that they were going to go in another direction, I don't know. But I think it depends on what your flavor and what you're asking your quarterback to do. Okay. Kyler Murray is always in shotgun, and it seems like he's always, one of those guys where if it's not there, man, he's going to move and he's going to try to make things happen, because he's tough to bring down when he's in the open field. And when those things don't work out, just like Kansas City's offense last year, we thought Patrick Mahomes over the last couple of seasons, unbelievable. Well, let's get a guy like that if we can find a guy like that. Well, he starts off the year and he's running around, and all those crazy plays he's made over the last couple of seasons, they weren't making, and the offense was stalling. And then all of a sudden something clicked and they started making a couple of plays. And I just think the team played better around him. So I think that we've come from an age of where every team was dependent on the quarterback had to drive the team. He had to be the best player. And if he played well, we were going to do well. To a place where, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't think Ben Roethlisberger, if you asked him, he's carried the team over the last couple of seasons, but he played well enough from the pocket. He wasn't going to beat you with his legs, but he played well enough from the pocket where he wasn't going to take you out of a game. He was going to be able to make enough plays to either win or keep you in with the defense. I don't think Arizona got that complimentary play, and I don't think Kansas City got that complimentary play early, because teams were scoring on Kansas City and they couldn't outscore everybody all the time, where they did the last couple of seasons. So I think it's more complimentary, Lubie, in terms of, the quarterback's important, whether you have a big strapping guy or a guy that can move, but you better be good on the defensive side of the football, because you have to score in the high 20s, it seems like, to win, especially in the early to middle part of the season until it gets kind of nasty out, right? You better be able to score, and you better be able to have a defense that keeps the other team in either the high teens or the low 20s, because if you have that type of offense and that type of quarterback, it's going to come down to the last couple of series in a game. I just don't think the size I don't think you need to have the big strapping guy, or you need to have the little guy that's going to make you move. I just think you need to have the guy that's going to be able to make the plays down the stretch, whether it's with his arm or legs, that doesn't lose the game, that's either going to win the game or keep you in the game for the other side of the ball to do their part.
John Kajemi and State Line Dolphins are John Kajemi here on the Defo Show. John brought to you every week, usually with us Monday, 8 to 9, and every week brought to you by the great people at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. A great place to just go and relax, have a great time, a great meal, and it's always good getting down to the Florida Keys. It really does kind of cleanse the soul a little bit, get down to the Florida Keys. So we recommend that you stop in at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill when you're down there. Okay, I mean, it's a big thing to grade these drafts. I was just reading Pete Prisco, and he had graded every team. I read several other people that do this, and in the New York Post and other publications and online. Most people are saying that the Ravens were the best. Now, the Ravens had more selections in the fourth round of the draft than the Dolphins had in the entire draft. And maybe including like next year. They somehow had like 6 fourth-round selections, which is a real aberration. But the general consensus seemed to be that of all the teams in the league, that they had fared the best. Do you share that opinion, John Kajemi?
I think the Ravens did well, but I would say the New York Jets. I thought the Jets did spectacular. I mean,
especially since it was the New York Jets.
Yeah, well, you weren't expecting it.
No,
right? You weren't expecting it from the Jets, because they seem to be the laughing stock of every
How are they going to blow the
cycle.
draft? Is the most important question to ask in New York. How are the Jets going to blow it this year?
Exactly. I thought the Giants did well. I thought the Ravens did really well. But I think the Jets, I mean, when you take a look at what are you trying to do with your first pick? Get a guy that's going to start on day one and be dominant. Well, you get the corner from Cincinnati and Sauce Gardner. What do you want to do on offense? You want to get that big playability wide receiver. You get Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. You need a pass rusher, a guy that falls in your lap, and Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. Now, whether he's going to be impactful right away, I don't know, but at least what you saw on tape when he was at Auburn, when he was at Florida State, this guy was dominant. And then you get, I think, a running back the Dolphins would have been if they didn't make the moves in the offseason, this guy would have fit right in. And Breece Hall from Iowa State, I thought he was the best running back in the draft. And then you get Ruckert, the tight end from Ohio State, making one-handed catches against Clemson and against Alabama, against any big team that they played, against Michigan. This guy was all over the field. So I thought they knocked it out of the park in the first 4, 5, 6 picks. And I think they got a defensive end at the end from Texas A&M, who's a really good player, and Michael Clemens. So I thought the Jets, for pick by pick, they had the best draft.
Could they possibly have gotten smart? How did that happen?
They did a great job. Now, the Jets are kind of in the position the Dolphins were in without all the wins last year. They've piled up a lot of talent on this football team in free agency and now in the draft. And now they're looking at their young quarterback going, okay, it's your turn. I don't care how you do it, but you got to be better than you were last year. And I think the Dolphins are not as in dire straits as the Jets in terms of quarterback, because I think Tua played really well for the Miami Dolphins, much better than Wilson did for the Jets. That goes without saying. But it's kind of similar in the terms of the pressure meter being pointed more at him, saying, okay, we did all the things we wanted to do to stockpile this team with talent. Now you have to be more consistent. Now you have to be able to drive the bus and be able to pile and stockpile wins in that column to see if we can get to where we want to go. And I think, the Jets are on a much lesser level because they're coming from a much deeper hole than the Miami Dolphins were in the last couple of seasons, but very similar in terms of the quarterback, relying on him to improve his play to see if they can get to be a playoff contending team.
I'm so used to, and I missed this this year because the Jets did seem to, act with a certain amount of wisdom as compared to previous drafts, where you always love the image of the stunned Jet fans sitting there going, "My
booing
God!"
of the Jet fans, the harassment
tight end,
of the Jets fans,
and they passed on Danny Boy, right? I mean, get out of here! These guys have just routinely blown a draft year after year, going all the way back to like Weeb Eubank. And so this year, maybe that does represent a little bit of a turnaround. And as you were saying, John, now, I wanted to get back for 1 second to Pickett because earlier it sounded like you were implying that he will be. That now we know they had the tragedy with Dwayne Haskins, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what else do they have on the roster there? Bubby Brister? I mean, who's going to replace Roethlisberger? Do you expect Pickett to start for this team? It sounded like you thought he might.
It'll be Mitchell Trubisky or Kenny Pickett, I believe right now. They did that move in the offseason. And, I think Kenny Pickett's going to have every opportunity to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers week 1. That's why you go out and you get a first-round quarterback to see if he has the goods to be able to come in right away and be able to be the guy not only for this year, but for the entirety of his career. When you pick a guy in the first round, you don't want to have to cut him. You don't want to have to trade him. You want to be able to roll with him and be able to pile up some wins and pile up, opportunities at winning championships. So that's the expectation, I think, when you're picked that highly, anywhere in the first round, if you're a quarterback, that you're a franchise guy and you're going to be able to get the job done. So I would expect a huge competition this summer in training camp and after preseason, see where, the Steelers are, because they're so good on defense. And, that kind of gets diminished because of all the scoring and explosive plays you see on offense and the way that the rules really cater to wide receivers and quarterbacks especially. But you can't discount what they have on defense. And I think that's a really solid football team.
Do all Pitt quarterbacks, you having been one of them, do they all dream about being drafted by the Steelers? Is there a point? Now, you're a Florida guy. Danny's from the area there, right? So you would imagine that, did he ever mention, hey, you know what, I always wanted to be a Steeler coming out of school? Or and would you think that, Pickett, he wants to get drafted for sure, so any team will do. But is it a dream of Pittsburgh quarterbacks to be drafted by the Steelers?
I don't know. I don't think it hurts, especially if you're from that city, especially when you think about, and just take Dan for an example. He grew up in the heyday of, the Steel Curtain and, the City of Champions and that it was a football town and still is. And that team was winning a lot of championships. becoming a dynasty of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So when it's your turn to be drafted, wouldn't you say that guy might want to stay home and play for his hometown team for sure? And especially now when you go full circle with the Steelers and the Panthers sharing the same facility, for college kids are 5 feet away from the door of the Pittsburgh Steelers when they're walking in to go to work every day. You see people coming off the practice field when you're going on. You see people, going to lunch when you're going to lunch. And even though that, there's a big wall that divides, both facilities, you're actually integrated with each other because you're sharing the same footprint. So I think it's great. James Conner had that experience a couple of years ago when he was a running back at Pitt. He gets drafted by the Steelers. He plays for them for a few years. I mean, it had to be a dream for him being born in Erie, Pennsylvania. So, Kenny Pickett the same way, I would assume.
Excellent stuff, as always, John Kajemi. A pleasure getting to reconnect with you again this week, live and in person. Always a lot for juxtaposing your and moving your schedule around to accommodate us today. So we'll talk to you again next Monday. Work on Tommy Fox, my friend.
Yeah, come
we
on.
have to make those arrangements. Yeah,
sometime in late May, I think.
I think Lubie had that indelibly, imprinted into the contract there that we would be making an appearance there. So I don't want to welch on that. And a watch party coming up in town here, John. If you want to join us Thursday night, we will be at Shenanigans in Dania. And Mike Mayo will be puking over, whatever he eats and drinks because the Panthers hopefully will be up 2-0 after that game. But we're going to watch the Panther hockey game there. And so it should be a lot of fun being there. On Thursday night.
If you can make tonight. It all starts tonight, and thanks for the invite on Thursday. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then I don't know what's going to happen. Mayo's starting to hedge a little bit all of his bets about this dinner, so I'm not sure if you still have the freebie invitation, but you're welcome to come and get a separate check if you come on out. And if we're paying, forget about it, John. We'll see you.
No, I know. I'm staying home.
Yeah.
I'll stay home.
All right, John Kajemi, great job as always. Thanks so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure, my friend, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds great, guys. Thanks.
All right, very good. John Kajemi, ladies and gentlemen. Real gentleman, that John Kajemi.
Yes,
unbelievable.
Sir.
Great guy. Tony Segreto, speaking of great guys, going to be with us tomorrow. We'll talk to Tony about a lot of things. That'll be Old School with Tony Segreto, brought to you by Catholic Health Services and the great people at Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Thursday, we'll do a little Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Gurgle's status a little bit unknown right now, so I may have to come up with the questions. I've been actually making a few notes.
Okay.
To come up with some trivia questions here based on things that are happening, even with Mr. Irrelevant, Lubie. So there'll be a Mr. Irrelevant question tomorrow on the Trivia Challenge portion of the program. And then Friday, a Degenerate Friday, the professor has been killing it with the big board.
And Kane Bradar, we have a nice 1-2 punch there with a Kane Bradar at 7:30. Video.
Oh, nice.
And Professor, I guess 7:45, 7:50. And then you get your Mailman. So we had a nice full Degenerate Friday as well.
Well, and the status of Mayo will not be so up in the air by then.
Yeah, if it's 2-0,
he'll either be pale as a ghost. Yeah, we'll have to adjust the lighting at Mayo's house because he'll either be down 0-2, right? I mean, there are only 3 possible scenarios, but it'll all be happening before he appears with us on Friday's show, which is kind of cool, right?
Yep.
2 games in 3 nights. You have to love that right here in town. Florida Panthers, opening round series, Washington Capitals. Mayo was speculating that Ovechkin was out for the series, which turns out to be anything but the case. Ovechkin is fine. He even has a new set of teeth, Ovechkin. That's how fine he is. Beautiful choppers all across the front there. Okay. And so the Caps are almost, they're to play the Panthers, I think you have to lay 350 to win 100 in this series. Lay 350 to win 100, and you get 260 for 100 if the Caps win and you have money on them. So the line very, very steep in favor of the Florida Panthers in this series, which is why I now have more respect for, as much as he's like Meshuggah, a paranoid hedge fund thinking the entire time. Well, I'll bet them to win the first game and then lose the second game, and I'll bet them to win the third period. I'm like, Mike, just, be prepared to buy dinner. That's all we can say. Now, it's never good to feel too cocky about any wager. You know that, Lubie. So I don't feel that way. I mean, just reading some very tepid commentary about how, they haven't won in the same logic that Mike's applying. Haven't won since 96. They were supposed to be real good last year. They got a tough draw with the Lightning, but they failed ultimately and didn't win the series. And how about this, Lube? They lost the first 2 games at home on their home ice. They had the home ice advantage in that series, and zippity-doo-dah, right out the door there. They went down 0-2. Now, they came back, made a series of it, looked like they had a shot to win the thing, but ultimately were outclassed by the 2-time now defending Stanley Cup champion Lightning, who got clobbered last night by the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs, who haven't been good forever, right? All of a sudden, they're dynamite. So, going to be tough to get out of the East, but I do believe they get out of the first round. I believe that, and if we're wrong, I think that Mike Mayo can up his demands there because, we'll buy him dinner at Runway 84, but we would probably also have to consider a suggestion of loser leaves town considerations here.
Feels like
only if we lose, because, he's given us the price. So
exactly.
I respect him for that. All right, so we'll have all that coming up on Friday, too. That'll be a lot of fun, and we'll know the results. And, of course, tomorrow night, tomorrow's show, we'll have the results of this first round. This is going to tell a lot about our confidence. If we don't show up tomorrow, Lubie, the Panthers lose 6-0 on an Ovechkin, not even a hat trick. He's got 4 goals in the game. Every shot he takes goes flying by Bobrovsky, who looks like a blind man in the pipes there. All right, we have to run. We're doing a little overtime here, but it's good to be back with you guys. I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Google the Defo Show. You can find the show. And then what was this little trick you gave me about finding the audio only if you're just in the car? Okay.
It's defoandlubie.com/live. It's a website. And it's
defoandlubie.com/live.
That's the whole thing.
All right.
And
that's it. And then you could plug that in your car somehow off your telephone?
Yes. Most cars, unless your car is made in 2005, most cars do Bluetooth now, where you would hear it through the car, just like a radio. So there you go.
So unless your car was fished out of a canal after somebody had been drowned years later and then sold on a used car lot on 441, you should be able to pick up the show by this new modern technology.
It's very easy.
Maybe not as easy as punching on a radio, but all you're getting is scratchy static anyway on the AM dial, right? A pigeon takes a crap, boom, you're off the air.
Yeah, exactly.
We remember that syndrome. All right, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 in the AM. Great to be with you guys. Thanks so much. You can catch us also on the Believe Network. That's BLEAV and 5 Reasons Sports. We'll have, no doubt, some John Kajemi popping up there. Ethan Skolnick's thing. Skolnick's, by the way, Scoop, did you see this? New enterprise, man.
Doing a whole thing, yep. And he's still here with us, and he's going to be joining our show Thursday. Talk a little Heat basketball.
Oh, yeah? I know. He's always great on that. He's right up there with Musk, this kid. Unbelievable in communications now after Musk purchased Twitter. All right, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 in the AM. Thanks for joining us, everybody. For Mike Lubitz back from a wonderful vacation, or so it sounded. I'm Jeff Deforrest. See you tomorrow as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:07.
Let's go to eat a damn snack. Look what they done to my show.